Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday 2 o'clock Tea and Talk, our conversations about business, marketing, and mindset. And I am Aura McKay. I'm a business coach and lifestyle strategist, and I specialize in working with creative entrepreneurs and helping bridge that gap between your creative genius and running a successful business. So I try to fill in that gap with training and support and information, which brings me to today. So today I am having a conversation with you about your story. So many of us have heard how important our story is to connecting with our audience. And I'm in the process right now of putting together a 5-minute speech. And, it's a little bit different because when I'm normally talking or speaking and I'm doing a keynote or I'm doing a breakout session, I usually have a lot of time to be able to connect and interact and share a little bit about who I am. But with only 5 minutes, I don't want to spend a ton of that time giving backstory. And even in these Facebook Lives, I don't want to spend a ton of my time, a ton of your time in sharing about who I am. And I have that same thought and concern when I look at my marketing and I think, okay, I'm creating a series of Facebook ads right now. How much of my story do I include in that Facebook ad? How much of my story do I include in my bio or my about me or something of that nature? So I'm kind of in the middle of that question about, how important is our story, how we got to where we got to, the dips and peaks and valleys in our journey of getting here. Why do our clients care about it? When do we use it? How do we use it? All of that kind of stuff. Hey, so, all of us come to our businesses with some history, some previous experience in our lives that led us to where we are in this point. So even the basis of a conversation that says, you must use your story in your marketing, but which one? So I think it's important for us to consider, what is the purpose of the story in the first place? Why are we telling the story? And which story is going to move us in the direction of connecting with our clients, of communicating a particular idea or thought? So that kind of brings us to the point of why are you telling your story in the first place? What is the purpose of using your story in your marketing and in your business? So I'm going to get into that in a minute. So for instance, this mug, I have a story about this mug. Should I tell that story right now? How do I know when I should tell that story or which story I should tell? So this kind of brings us into the conversation of, why do we tell our story? So let's get back to that purpose. So the purpose then, why would we tell our story more in fine art versus home decor? Why would we tell our story to make connection in the first place? So let's look at a purpose of a story. The purpose of a story is usually to create some kind of affinity, some way of helping the listener connect more deeply to your message. So when we are in a conversation and we're just talking about data or talking about stacks or talking about facts, some listeners will be able to receive a message packaged in that kind of information, packaged in data and facts and information. Some listeners won't be able to connect to the message without the use of storytelling. So telling a story, let me tell you a story. So for instance, when I talk to people about my business and I talk to them about what I do in my business and who I serve and how I serve them, they get the information, but a lot of them don't really understand what the business is all about. So if I can choose to tell a little bit of the story about why it matters to me that I do my business, if I can talk a little bit more about why it matters to me, then people might be able to connect more and understand and remember why I'm in business. So for me to say, I work with creative entrepreneurs and I help them bridge the gap between creativity and their talents and making money in a business. Okay, great. But if I say something like, for 20 years, I've been running a successful professional photography business, and I've created an amazing life for myself. And it wasn't always this way. It wasn't always champagne and canapes. Sometimes it was cheese sticks and Cheerios and water. So when I look back at my life and I look at what it took to get from that place of struggle and poverty into my life now, where I have a feeling of blessing and abundance and gratitude, sharing that journey with you might actually be valuable for you. That might actually connect with you in a way that helps you understand why I do what I do. Hey, Sue, nice to see you. So, the purpose of a story is to help people connect with you, to create that sense of affinity, to be able to relate to you. The purpose of a story is to help people remember things, remember your message, be able to recall it later on. A story is way more powerful than trying to recall just facts and information. And what is another purpose of a story? A purpose of a story is to connect with people at an emotional level. So often when we are doing marketing of our business, we're interrupting something else that our client is doing. So maybe if we're marketing and advertising on Facebook, our clients or potential clients are just scrolling through Facebook and they're disconnected and they're wasting time, or they're trying to escape from something, or they're waiting in a lineup and they're totally not thinking, gee, I wish I could find that creative service that's just going to change my life. They're not actually shopping in and of that moment. Hey, Jason, thanks for joining us. So when we use a story, what we're doing is we're interrupting whatever it is that our clients or prospects are doing, and we're using something that connects to them emotionally. And when people get connected into their emotions, into their feelings, then we have the ability to influence some of their thoughts and behaviors. When we can connect to their feelings, then we have the opportunity for our marketing message to land more effectively. So for instance, if you're scrolling through and you see something that you've been looking for and it's a solution that falls like right in your lap and you think, oh my gosh, I'm sure that the internet is eavesdropping on everything and can hear all of my thoughts, which is a whole other conversation, by the way. And you see that message land in there and it speaks to you and it says, hey, I know you've been having this problem. I know that you've been having this experience. I've had this experience too. This is how it looked in my life. This is the journey that I took to overcome that. And now here I am in this lifted or changed circumstance, and I can help you get there also. That's a great time to use your story. So using your story, one of the things that I've seen done poorly is a lot of times in free webinars or free masterclasses, or even in Facebook Lives, people will come on and they'll spend the first 20 minutes or the first like 30% of their scheduled time talking about themselves, but talking about themselves and sharing their story without the context, without the thoughtfulness of how is this story going to serve my listeners? How is this story going to move them towards an understanding or a better connection with my message, or shift them emotionally, or help them to remember something? So that's often why we use a story, and it's often misused because people are so concerned about trying to establish credibility and trying to say, like, this is how great I am. And I think that we need to be mindful about what the agreement is when we come when we're telling someone our story. So if somebody is coming to you and they're going to come for specific information, they don't really want to spend a lot of time listening to your story unless It's relevant. So how do you use your story in your business and marketing? You consider the intention, and then you consider, is this story relevant? Will it, working with filmmakers and videographers, and I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on like the making of things. And when you think about creating a film or a movie or telling a story visually, a lot of times what we do is we try to eliminate stuff that is distracting, eliminate things that don't actually move the viewer along in their experience. So when you're thinking about telling your story, whether you're going to share it in a video or you're going to share it in your marketing or you're going to put it on the About Me page, really look at that story and consider, is this story relevant? Will it help my listener, my viewer, move through a journey, connect more deeply to my message, get into an emotional state where they can receive the message? Is this story relevant? And if it's not, edit it out or replace it with something else. Yes, we're moving into a shift in our marketing where we're no longer doing sort of spray and pray marketing. It's not all about the scale and the masses. It's not all about automation, although automation is definitely part of it. The main currency in marketing right now is relationship equity. It's connecting deeply with your clients or connecting with them at all if that's not something that you've been doing. So using your story will definitely help you to connect with your clients. So if anyone has any questions about that, please post them in the comments. If you have any specific circumstances that you'd like to talk about, please post them in your comments. The other thing about your story is it can be such a powerful tool because you are the only one who's lived your experience. So practice in writing your story and really connecting to the parts of your story that matters is such an amazing skill, and one that I continue to hone and practice. And like I said, I'm at the moment of putting together a 5-minute speech, which is like really short for me, and how much of my story am I going to include in it? So if you listen back to them, I talk more about it in detail, but essentially the buyer's journey goes from, I don't have any idea who you are, so they need to get to know you, then they need to get to like you, and then they need to trust you, and then try, and then buy. So your story is really great out here on the edges where people don't have any idea who you are. That can be a time to introduce your story, or when you're trying to create that relationship with people so that you can really connect with them and create affinity and they can learn to like you and trust you. That's the time to use your story. So when you think about the tools that happen most in those marketing times of the know, like, trust, try cycle, that might help guide you in where to use your story really effectively. So sometimes it's by declaring who we are in the world and telling our story as it relates to our business that helps our clients get enrolled in what we're up to. So last weekend I did a presentation for the Professional Photographers of Canada, British Columbia, and we talked a lot about relationship and listening to our clients and getting engaged, and some of the conversation was about the confidence in claiming who you are and having the passion to sell the products that you want and package your services the way that you want. And getting in touch with your story helps you do all of those kinds of things. The story, your vision, what matters to you, how you got to where you're at, those are some of the most unique things that you are bringing into the world through your business. So I really encourage you to get clarity and get confidence with your story. Write down and learn how to tell several different kinds of stories, and practice having different lengths of the version of the story. So that's what I'm going to get up to next, is I'm going to take my story and some information and create a powerful 5-minute talk to deliver on Thursday night at a speaker's event that I'm going to practice and get feedback on that craft of telling my story in that format. So thanks very much for tuning in to today's Tuesday 2 o'clock Tea and Talk, and I will see you guys next week.